That's my take on it. But for more,
stand by, sir.
Let's bring in Don Brown, constitutional attorney and former U.S. Navy JAG officer. Welcome, Don. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Carolyn. Miranda, Tara. Glad to be with you today.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. So, I think, Don, we pretty much expected that Wade was going to be the one to go. We just didn't know how quickly it would happen. What's your reaction?
It is a half-baked, cowardly decision from a young judge who is doing his best to give a John Roberts light impression, if you ask me. Right before the Dobbs case, Roberts didn't want to overturn Roe. He wanted to meet somewhere in the middle. This guy, as you has laid out already, Carolyn, has found an appearance of impropriety. And it's not just conflict of interest, but he could have disqualified both of them based upon an appearance of impropriety. And You laid out some of the language that he used, that basically what he's doing, he's rewarding one for committing an appearance of impropriety. And if there should be a higher standard here, it should be from the elected district attorney. And his failure to disqualify them both is an absolute travesty of justice. He's like a John Roberts light. This is a cowardly decision. He should have gone further and disqualified them both. He did use very strong language against her lapse of judgment, as you pointed out. I read the decision about an hour or so ago. He had every grounds to disqualify. I disagree with his finding there's no conflict of interest. I mean, the guy's taking money, he gets a big raise. They go they go here, there, everywhere. And she says she's repaid him in cash. There are no receipts of that. And if she were, I tell you one thing, if somebody tried to do that, to give that lack of receipts to a district attorney or an IRS prosecutor, you wouldn't get very far. She should be held to the same standard for those that she's prosecuted. And it's just extremely disappointing that this judge has basically decided to try to walk a middle line and appease everybody when he should have disqualified the entire team. It's ridiculous.
Well, Don, I'm just curious about this because, I'm not a legal analyst by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think I have some common sense, and I think all of us do here, and I think our viewers do too. I mean, looking at that, it looked like he was saying, the threshold was even the appearance of a conflict of interest. So it looked like he was saying, yeah, there is a conflict of interest because either you got to go or he's got to go. So I'm pointing out right there is a conflict of interest, but at the same time saying it wasn't substantial enough. Like, what's the threshold here for how big does it have to be? Because I thought it was even just the appearance of it.
It's a moving target. As I've said, he could disqualify for one of three reasons: an outright conflict of interest, appearance of impropriety, or what we call forensics misconduct. In other words, prosecutors mishandling evidence for doing something irregularly. Either one of those three grounds are enough to disqualify. In fact, he used the appearance of impropriety as sufficient grounds for disqualifying one or the other. You've tainted this process so much that I'm going to disqualify one or the other. Well, they're both equally tainted. So how are you going to reward one and disqualify the other? Miranda, I'm sorry. I trust your legal judgment more than most of these clowns wearing black robes these days. And I don't put this guy in the category of that clown up in New York, that oversaw the civil case where we got a $300 million verdict. But this is a John Roberts like decision where he's trying to please everybody. He doesn't have the guts to kick this team off. So he splits the baby down the middle and now gives her the opportunity to stay on. And I saw Carolyn was setting up the issue. What will she do? I've said this on your show several times. Fanni Willis is a corrupt prosecutor. She should be prosecuted herself. We just don't have the legal means to do it yet. We need rogue prosecutor laws. I don't think she's going to step down. She's got no conscience at all. She's bringing a kangaroo court prosecution with a RICO case, just making stuff out of the blue, trying to attack the president and others for their political views. She won't step down. This is a victory, unfortunately, for the prosecutor, and shame on this judge for not having the spine to do his job and to kick them both off the case, which is what he should have done.
Don, we only have a few minutes remaining, and so obviously this just broke right before the show, but the big thing now is what's going to happen next. You don't think Fanni Willis is going to step down? No. Trump's attorney has reacted to this ruling, basically reiterating the same thing that you're saying. Right. Let me ask you, is an appeal likely? And, you've got a couple other investigations. We were talking about it the other day. I mean, this is just one thing, this hearing, but then you also got the Georgia Senate having its own investigation. You got the House Judiciary Committee having its investigation. And then the other day we talked about Judicial Watch actually suing as well. So, I just want to make sure that we get to that. What's next?
I do hope the president's attorneys will appeal. As you pointed out, Miranda, this is a contradiction of logic. You know, because you can't on the one hand disqualify one and let the other one stay. They're both equally tainted, and she's an elected official, so she should be held to a higher standard. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
So now, will this hurt the case, though, against Trump, coming from her now that she's basically guilty of what she's going to be accusing Trump of and these other defendants of?
The problem is, Tara, that this case is in Fulton County, Georgia, which is the cesspool of one of 4 epicenters of corruption from the 2020 campaign. So are you going to be able to get a fair trial with that jury pool down there? That's why they need to keep fighting on appeal until the United States Supreme Court hopefully will step in and come in with some sort of discretionary function type of defense here, so that you can't prosecute a president for making political decisions while he's still in the White House. It's what they're trying to do. But I would appeal it. I'm not sure it's going to help their chances with that corrupt jury pool. He doesn't have any better chance there than he does in Washington, D.C., maybe slightly, but it's corrupt in both cases with the jury pool.
Yeah. Well, and we'll see what happens, too, as far as whether she perjured herself. He kind of wiggled his way out of that one, too, in this ruling, and that's going to have to be addressed one way or the other. So, Don, thank you so much for your analysis today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, ladies. Have a great afternoon. Appreciate you.
You too.
Thanks, Don.